I'm Gabe Felty, and this is a 10-minute monologue, Normalcy, by Bobby Keninston. I know you want me to talk, so fine. I'll talk. But I don't want to hear anything that you have to say because it won't help. Whatever good intentions you have to try to figure me out or sort my head into these neat itty-bitty boxes, it won't help. And I don't feel like apologizing. Okay? The only reason that I'm here is because my dad said that we have to get back to some sense of normalcy, or whatever that means. To tell you the truth, I can't think back to a time where our family would ever be considered normal. And it wasn't all Jasper's fault either. He wasn't the only reason our family would be considered abnormal, no matter what anybody wants to say. Even if he is responsible for the incident, or whatever you want to call it. Of course, the police just call it the murder. Murder. I couldn't say that word 2 weeks ago without wanting to vomit. Tragedy is what the newspapers and the news shows call it. Newscasters with their perfectly practiced, serious expressions on their faces. You know, if they really cared about human beings, why would they stick a microphone and a camera in my face and ask me how it feels to know that my older brother killed my mom? How do you even answer a question like that? Well, Tim, it certainly hasn't been easy, especially considering that my mother is dead. And what about all those people that watch those shows? Do you know what they're really thinking underneath all those little comments they make to each other? You know, like, oh, those poor people, and our prayers are with you. Do you know what they're thinking underneath all those platitudes? It's the simple thought of better them than us. They thank God this hasn't happened to them. And I'm the one who has to return to normalcy. He taught me how to ride a bike, you know. Jasper. My parents had tried and tried, but every time they would let go, I would start screaming and crying, and I would refuse to ride by myself. I thought I was going to die never knowing how to ride a bike. And then one day, Jasper took me outside and he took the training wheels off my bike. And he told me, Shawn, you have to do this. Riding a bike is the closest thing that we get to flying. And then he asked me why I was so afraid of flying. And I told him that I wasn't afraid. And then I got on and I started pedaling, and he held on and started pushing. And then, without so much as a warning or giving me a choice in the matter, he let go. I was gonna start screaming, but then he started yelling out encouragements. Keep going, Shawn. You can do it. Look, Shawn, you're doing it. You're flying. I just kept pedaling around there for a few minutes before I finally got back to Jasper. He had this big grin on his face. And then he said, the trick to flying is not being afraid to fall every once in a while. And I was so happy to have an older brother that was willing to do things with me and teach me things. He was my hero. I'm sure I don't need to tell you this, but most schizophrenic patients start exhibiting symptoms around their late teens to early 20s. Jasper was diagnosed when he was 13, but my parents didn't tell me until he was 16. when it really started to get bad. I remember my brother beating his head into the wall just to make the voices stop, and my dad having to pull him off just so he wouldn't really hurt himself. I remember the pain in my brother's eyes. I remember all the pills that were supposed to help and didn't. I remember the screaming at 3 o'clock in the morning. Most of all, I remember my parents. Never, not once, losing faith or courage in the faces of their sons. Until 3 months ago, when my dad walked in and found my mom. We had been out shopping, and Mom had stayed home with Jasper because he'd had a rough night. When we pulled up, Dad must have sensed something was wrong because I started to get out of the car and he stopped me. And then he got out and he went up to the front door and he went inside. And he went over to the kitchen. I got out of the car and I went up to the front door. I didn't go inside, but I heard Dad calling for Jasper. His voice was so calm and soft for someone who had just walked in to find their wife dead, stabbed 7 times, blood everywhere. He didn't want to scare Jasper. When Dad found him, he was in the living room finishing up a model airplane. He turned to Dad and he said, "Hey Dad, where's Shawn? I think this is going to be ready for a test flight soon." The next day, Dad and I went to the hospital to visit Jasper. The first thing he did was throw his arms around me, and he said, "Where's Mom? They keep telling me I did something awful to Mom. Why would they say something like that?" I told him that I loved him very much and that everything was going to be okay. And then Dad told him that he loved him very much and that Mom loved him very much. There is no doubt in my mind that my mom would forgive Jasper for killing her. People don't understand, not even now. That wasn't Jasper. Not really. I love my brother. I love the person that killed my mom. And now he will never be able to fly again. So tell me, how am I supposed to find normalcy in that?